Hey guys, this is Jason, and for the first time I was doing a project where I needed to use all of three available options on a scope definition object: the @ symbol, the equal sign, and the ampersand. And I thought, why not do a tutorial that cleanly explains kind of what this is? So if we head over to kind of our template here, and you can see the directive right here, let's talk about each one. So if I want to pass in just a static value, and what this is really doing is saying, hey, make a variable called description or step and make it available on scope. So I could do scope.dsc to get a hold of it. But how this symbol represents kind of how it handles the data as it comes in. So what you're saying here is, hey, for the step, give me whatever the actual value is that it results to. So do the calculation, derive it first, and then whatever that result is, assign it to step. So that's important because if you look at the template, I'm just passing in a string value. So this is saying whatever this calculates out to be. Now that also means that I could do 1 plus 1 and it would still be 2 because it calculates whatever you pass in here. The result of it gets converted into a string and gets passed to the directive directly. And so it's not binding to a variable. So if I just said like foobar, then that would actually be the result of saying foobar. So if foobar was equal to something, then it would just spit out whatever that was equal to. That's what the value of step would be in the directive. So if foobar were equal to hello, then the variable step here would be equal to hello. So if I came down here and I said scope.hello, then scope.step, then it would be equal to hello. And so it's just saying, get me the result of whatever is passed in to that attribute. So you would primarily be using it with the squiggly braces like this, or just passing in a value directly. So that's what the @ symbol does. So the equal sign just means bind to the variable. So if you were coming over to something like this, where I've got scope.vm.chosen category is a boolean, and I'm inverting it with an equal sign, but basically it's binding to this. So this value in disabled, if I were to log that out, it's not going to say ! .vm. whatever, because that's what the actual variable is. It's going to give you it's going to bind to that, and it's the same as if you didn't pass in a string, and this is incorrect syntax, but if you did vm. Whatever, it just binds it directly to a variable, and it's not the calculated result of that variable. So that's what the equal sign is. These are the two most common ones. So the idea is that if you want to pass in just a static value, for the most part, you'll be using the @ symbol. If you want to link it up to a scope variable and have that two-way binding going on, you're going to use the equal sign. The ampersand, I just now needed to use it for the first time. And it's when in this case, I wanted to be able to pass in a function. In this case, I've defined a function on my scope. And you can call this whatever you want. Don't confuse this onClick with an actual JavaScript onClick handler. I could have called this anything. But I'm passing in a specific function to get executed. And so this onClick means that it's binding to that function itself. And as you know in JavaScript, a function is a certain type of object. So if you go into the template, you can see that I have this ngClick right here, and I'm calling the variable onClick, which is bound to that function. And so think of it like this. @ symbol is just static data being passed in, no data binding, just here's some text. The equal sign is two-way data binding to a scope variable, not a function. And the @ symbol is a function, so when you actually want to fire something. Now I could have come down to this and done it this way, scope.on, and then specified some event like click, and then done like scope.on click. So I could have done something like this as well, but here's the thing. If you do it like this, I'm binding to click. But on a lot of touch devices, that introduces the 300 millisecond delay. And so when you're using NG Touch, then you can take advantage of how it overwrites the NG Click directive, and that takes care of that delay. So rather than just doing it like this, just get rid of it, and then I use the NG Click in the template directly because that will take care of the delay. But that's kind of what these three types are. And why you'd want to use them. Now, in this particular case, you'll see that I use these symbols without anything following them. And that just means that it's expecting an attribute called DESC, and an attribute called step, and an attribute called disabled and on click. Camel case here maps to the dashed version here. But let's say that I wanted to call this step stepo, and then in this case, if I came back to the scope definition object, this, and I still want to call this step internally to the directive, then I would come over here and say stepo. And that just clarifies that the attribute stepo is then bound using this technique. And that applies to all these others too. Hopefully that clears up kind of when you would use one or the other, but the idea is that you need to pass in a function, you're going to use the ampersand. You need to pass in a scope variable, you're going to use the equal sign. And if you need to pass in just a static string or the result of a static string using like the curly brace evaluation, then you're going to use @ symbol. So there you go. That's why you'd want to use all three of these. Hopefully that kind of clears it up for you.